Hey there, this is the Resistor Vic podcast. I'm here to get folks thinking about politics as something that's really about regular people, people like you and me, and to realize that together we can make a difference.
Hey everybody, this is Big Mike. I am guest hosting for Resistor Vic while he is on the campaign trail for House District 47 here in Colorado. But here with me tonight is Resistor Vic himself, and we will go ahead and bring him in.
Hi, Mike.
Hey Vic, good to see you.
All right, so I know that this is your show, but I want to say first, everybody, I know that Mike is a much better interviewer than I am. So when you come into the comments, don't feel bad about saying, hey, you should let this guy guest host more often.
Well, I certainly appreciate the compliment, but tonight I am here checking up on you, your campaign, how things are going. So start us off. This is the first time we've talked since I think, first weekend you announced. So tell us how the campaign's going.
Well, so far I'm very happy with the donations. I don't want to say how much I've got yet because I don't want to give the opposition any heads up. But let's just say that it's working well so far. I have 50 states and DC supporting me. I think it's going to be a robust campaign, and I'm very comfortable and happy with how it's going so far. I've got people reaching out to me to volunteer to be digital media specialist and, some of the key things I'm going to need. So yeah, so far so good. It's only, but not even 2 weeks in yet, or just 2 weeks in yet. And there's lots to do yet, but so far so good.
Awesome. And what are you hearing from the party?
I haven't reached out to the party. Shad Murib and I are not exactly friends.
Yeah.
I worked hard to try and get somebody else to be the state party chair, and the guy I was backing didn't make it. I don't agree with how Shad Murib does a lot of things in the party. So I don't expect any support from the state party. I mean, if they want to give me support, I will take it. But I'm counting on this being a grassroots effort. My local parties, the county level parties, are very supportive of my candidacy, and yeah, that's what I need more than anything is people in the district caring and wanting to see me win.
Gotcha. And have you reached out to any of the progressive groups like Justice Democrats or any of those other?
Not yet. It's on my to-do list.
Okay. Gotcha. And sorry, I'm still not 100% used to being live.
Can you see comments?
What's that?
Can you see go up on the right side of the screen into the comment box?
Comments.
Now we can keep an eye on what folks have to say about us. If somebody's got questions, they can ask. Folks, I've asked Big Mike to be my guest host, not just tonight, but going forward. Maybe we haven't discussed all the details yet, but I'll do some episodes maybe here and there, but Mike's going to be doing my podcast for me again, because I've watched enough of his interviews to know that he's a better interviewer than I am. And I trust him to keep the podcast in good hands.
Yes. And Vic, I understand you're making some progress on the issues part of your campaign. Are you able to update us on that, or is that?
Yeah. Yes. One of the volunteers that I have is somebody over in Durango. He's like, I've been following you for a while. I really like your message. And because if you saw my first campaign website, it was pretty bare bones with almost no information, basically a donate button. And he's like, let me do your website. So he got it built and it's up, and I haven't checked it in the last hour or so, but my first policy paper is going to be put up on my website. If not today, then hopefully tomorrow. And it deals with, well, let me back up a little bit. I did a video about, I don't know, 3 months ago maybe, on the Kentucky 6 race because the old guy, I don't know if you follow him, but the old guy in Kentucky, he saw one of my videos on a candidate. He's like, you should do Kentucky 6. So I looked over the 3 candidates and I couldn't see anything on their website that told me anything about them or what they were running on. So I kind of blasted them in a video. I said, I did like you asked, and I'm not impressed. One of those candidates, Karen Petrie, said, I'll come on your podcast and I'm not an empty suit. And she did, and she is not an empty suit. But the point is, I want my website to be one that informs people. I want them to on. And as the campaign progresses, you're going to see more and more detail about the specific issues I'm running on. There's a lot on there right now based on all my videos over the last 2 years. Tells you my political philosophy and everything, the issues that I care about. But the issues that I'm specifically running on are going to be populated there with policy papers. And the first one that's coming up is, what did we title it? Surveillance state. I want to prohibit the use of automatic license plate reader cameras in Colorado on government property. You can't do it on private property. That's a constitutional issue. But we can prohibit governments from having them. And we can prohibit government in Colorado from collecting and using the data. Because right now, the federal government is taking this data, and people think that it's just for immigration, but it's not. They're tracking Americans' movements all day long, every day, all across the country. They can tell you where you went Tuesday afternoon when you left work and who you met and where you met. I mean, that's some creepy stuff. And I don't think the federal government should be able to do that. And I don't think the state government should help them do that. And we can fight back against that by outlawing the use of license plate readers in Colorado on government property or for government use.
And we're just seeing the mayor here in Denver was getting some pushback on his contract with Flock.
Yep.
So of course he ended that contract and has gone with one of their competitors, supposedly more secure. Always hard to tell with any kind of data. There's always a chance of a breach. And of course, I believe they also have a contract with DHS, not necessarily with ICE. So
ICE is a subsidiary of DHS.
Exactly.
So if it's with DHS, it's with ICE.
So yeah, I guess what are your thoughts on the move? Is it any better? Is it kind of a lateral throw?
Different horse, same destination. And one of the pushback that he's getting is from law enforcement. But to that, I say, we went almost 250 years without needing mass surveillance of the public, and we were solving crimes. Yeah. You know, we solved crimes without intruding on people's civil liberties before, and we can keep doing that. We don't have to give up our liberty in order to find out who stole the car.
Yeah.
I mean, the amount of crime that is solved through this method is minuscule, especially when you compare it to the rights that people are giving up in order to get that law enforcement activity.
And to be honest, it's the AI-ification of justice.
Exactly.
You know, it's honestly coming for police officers' jobs.
Yeah. Well, they're feeding all this data in, and it's the AI. I read a story in, I think it was the Atlantic a couple of months ago, and I did a video on it because they're got these flock cameras all over the country, and they're feeding the data to Department of Homeland Security. And then they're using AI to say, this person looks suspicious. DHS or ICE, Custom Border Patrol, they call up Podunk County Sheriff and say, this vehicle will be coming through your jurisdiction. We need you to pull them over and search them. And it's the AI who decided they were suspicious. So Podunk Sheriff, he pulls this car over and makes up a reason to pull them over, because they can't just pull them over. They have to have a reason. They make up a reason, and then they make up a reason to search them. And that is just wrong on so many levels. No suspicion of anything, no legal suspicion, and there's no warrant. There's no way to justify a warrant, but they're doing it. And I think that we have to protect ourselves from that. We can do that at the state level by saying we can't use them. And if you think, I don't know how much money yet, I need to research this part some more. I don't know how much money the state and local governments are spending on license plate reader cameras and the data and all that stuff. But if we take that money and we put it instead into schools, into efforts to create jobs that pay a living wage, into proper health care, we do those things in affordable housing. We boost those things and improve them, we're going to reduce crime. That's scientifically proven. So the money is much better spent on preventing crime than it is catching one or two car thieves.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I think what we're seeing now, especially with the MAGAification of America, is the end result of 40 years of defunding education in America.
Absolutely.
Um, they did this on purpose. They like Donald Trump said it himself. He loves the uneducated.
Yep.
Those are his words, not mine.
Well, that's a core tenet of fascism. You keep the people uneducated and ignorant. It's easier to keep them divided. And if you can keep them divided and uneducated, then they can be led so much easier. They can be scared. They can be coerced so much easier. They will not stick together and stand up for themselves.
That's right. And in my opinion, the answer to all of this is education. Like
Absolutely.
you train the youth and you end up not with crime because they've learned properly, you know?
And that's a big part of why my second policy that's going to get populated to my website is going to be on education, public education. I'm old enough to remember back when there was no such thing as a charter school, but there was a big push for vouchers. The right wing started pushing for vouchers, and I always thought it was because they wanted that public education money to go into their buddies' pockets that ran the private schools. But now I know that it's really more about tearing down public education than anything. And when they couldn't get their vouchers, that's when we started hearing about this new thing called charter schools and schools of choice. They beat down on the education system. They told us how bad it was. They told us how the teachers weren't any good. And that got people to believing it and thinking, well, we need to be able to choose where our kid goes to school. And when we did that, we took away the community school. When you take away the community school, you take away the heart of a community. Kids can grow up a couple of houses away from each other and never meet because they never went to the same school. And our education system suffers more and more because when Johnny goes to school and he's not doing his work and he gets a bad grade, the parent goes to the school and says, hey, why is my kid failing? It's all your fault. And if you don't pass him, I'm going to take him to another school. And the way we fund public education in this state and so many others is by per pupil spending. If you've got 10 students, you get enough funding for 10 students. And if you lose one of those students, then your funding goes down. There's so much wrong with how we do public education. But the core of it is we've got to get back to community-based schools so that the parents in that school know each other. The kids that went to school together know each other. They grow up together and they're willing to stand together as adults.
So you've got a question here from Roger Myrtle. Walsenberg here. Any thoughts on the Friday protests to keep the prison closed?
Yes, I wish so much that I didn't work Monday through Friday or had the flexibility in my job, which I don't. I would be up there protesting with you. That's only 30 miles from my house. And the idea of having a Nazi like concentration camp so close to my own home is something that I very, very much don't like. And um, Mayor Vazani, his excuses acting like that's going to bring a lot of jobs to Walsenburg is absurd. The private prison that was there before didn't bring a lot of jobs. There were a few people from Walsenburg who worked there, but people are driving from Pueblo down to here to work. They drive from Pueblo to work at the state prison a few miles from here where I used to work. So it's a concentration camp. We are rounding up people who are not guilty of any crimes. Some of those people are Americans, and the conditions that they are being subjected to in these concentration camps are utterly one day history is going to look back and America is going to be ashamed. And I don't want that anywhere near, I don't want it anywhere in America, but I especially don't want it in my own backyard.
All right. And Kylie Brock, I think he's being sarcastic, says the Dow Jones is up. On that note, why don't we jump over? Tell me what you thought about Trump's State of the Union speech the other night.
Didn't watch it.
Didn't
I
you?
didn't. I didn't. I've always watched State of the Union speeches, regardless of whether or not I liked the president. But in the era of Trump, I knew what he was going to say. Did you watch it?
I listened to it. Yeah,
All right.
I was playing a video game, but
Tell me if I'm right. I didn't watch it because I figured he's going to tell us that he's a victim of being picked on by the Democrats and all these hoaxes. And then
less
he
of
was
that. I will say there was less of that this time.
less this time. Okay. He was going to lie to us and tell us how great he's doing. He's the best president ever.
Mostly that.
Yeah. He's going to tell us that the economy is better than it's ever been.
Yep.
And he was going to blame the Democrats for everything from road rage to the changing of the seasons.
Yep. Just about nailed it.
And I didn't have to watch it.
Yeah. He also gave out a bunch of prizes. It looked like an episode of The Price is Right.
Yeah.
Just calling people down.
I've seen some of the coverage of that. And, he did exactly what you said. He turned it into a game show or a reality TV. And it's really unfortunate. It used to be a serious event.
Yeah, it was, just frustrating to listen to, honestly. And yeah, and the yelling and the cries from the Democrats, not a good look in my opinion. I understand protesting. I don't know if you like, I would have just not gone with the Midas Touch guys outside if I was going to do that,
I think the best thing that the Democrats could have done is either all show up and make no kind of spectacle at all.
Yeah. Just sit there.
Yeah, sit there quietly, let the country see what a buffoon he is. The only other thing that might have been good is if all of the Democrats in unison would have started chanting, "Release the files." That is the only other kind of protest that I would have liked to have seen there.
Yes. Or just don't go. I think a couple of them didn't.
Yeah.
Boycotted the event. I would have just either all gone and sat quietly or just all not gone.
Right.
Because the yelling and the screaming just isn't a good look to me. You look like Marjorie Taylor Greene. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Let the clowns run the clown show. We don't need to jump in the clown car with them.
That's right.
Look, somebody wants you to run for prez.
No thank. Oh, that's my wife. That's why. Okay. Let's see. She must be watching at work.
I think you're already more popular than I am, Mike.
I, the following accounts would beg to differ.
So
And
what
then,
else you got for me?
I'm, you know, uh, I'm coming off an 11-hour day of work, so I'm kind
Ah,
of freestyling a little bit here tonight.
cool.
But let's see. Um, we had
Pick the easy questions, Mike. Vic needs them. Ah.
Oh yeah, there's a couple trolls out there in the
Theory
audience.
and thumbsticks. Thank you, Ivan, for contributing to my follower count.
All right. So yeah, let's I guess we can jump over to the SAVE Act. Not looking good for it in the Senate. Um, Tell us kind of what your thoughts are on that. It doesn't look like it's going to get through, but
No, I've never been worried that it was going to get through because the only way it could get through would be to kill the filibuster. And I don't see John Thune ending the filibuster, especially when you look at how the elections are going. There's a good chance that the Democrats will take on over not just the House, but the Senate as well. So I know there's been a lot of people making a lot of hay over the SAVE Act, and it is a horrible, horrible thing, completely unconstitutional, in my opinion. But I haven't spent a lot of time on it because I don't believe it can get through the Senate. Did you see what Trump was doing? No, you were at work today. Nightly news tonight, they were talking about Trump is preparing an executive order to declare a state of emergency for elections so that he can impose rules nationwide on voter ID and things like that. Basically, the SAVE Act, because he knows it's not going to get through the Senate. But that is wholly unconstitutional. The Constitution is very, very clear that the states are the ones who control their elections. The federal government has no say in it. The only thing the federal government can do with respect to elections is make sure that the Constitution is followed with respect to eligibility, and they can do campaign finance reform for the federal offices, and they can set dates and things like that, but they can't make up the rules for the states to follow with regards to the elections because the Constitution is very clear. Even this right wing, um, authoritarian loving Supreme Court that we have, even these guys are not going to have enough votes to find that constitutional. So, at the end of the day, it's just headlines trying to drum up, I think, fear among the electorate, trying to make people afraid of going to vote. And this is what I would say to every American everywhere is when you have somebody that's trying to make you afraid to vote, telling us that they're going to send the ICE agents to polling places to make sure that those illegals aren't voting and all that other stuff. Their whole thing is to try and convince you to not show up. Do not let them get away with it. I did a video a little while ago about General McAuliffe in the Battle of Bastogne in World War II when the 101st was surrounded by the Germans, and it was looking very, very bleak. And the German commander sent a letter to General McAuliffe and said, "You've got 2 hours to surrender." General McAuliffe's only answer was nuts. One word, send it back, nuts. So if you're walking up to a polling place and there's some ICE goon sitting there trying to intimidate you, walk up to him, smile at him, and say nuts, and then go in and vote.
I like it. I like it. A Vice with Virtue wants to know what your thoughts about your thoughts on AI data centers here in Colorado.
AI data centers in Colorado. I've put a lot of thought into the whole AI thing because I'm hearing a lot of controversy over how much energy they take and water that they use and things like that. So I looked into it, and yes, AI centers take a lot of energy. But here's the thing: AI is not going away. Just like when Henry Ford was building the horseless carriage and they started driving over the trails that the cattle and the cowboys rode on, and the cattle and the cowboys were pissed off, it didn't stop that technology from advancing. The answer isn't to waste energy fighting against AI existing. The answer is to fight for the infrastructure and the things that we need to keep it from being damaging. We need to fight for more renewable energy. We need to fight for the storage capacity for renewable energy. We need to put rules in place. Some of the, when it comes to the water usage, it's true that a lot of them use water to cool their systems. But I found my research anyway showed that the ones that are using water to cool their systems are in places where there is abundant water. And the places where there's AI centers and there's not a lot of water, they're using other methods, mostly electricity and HVAC systems. So the answer is not to pretend that we can fight it and keep it from being there. The answer is to reinforce our infrastructure so that it's not damaging.
Yeah, I hear that. And I recently heard that they don't even need to use as much water as they do. They do it because it's the cheapest way to do it.
Yeah.
But they have like circular cooling systems that reuse the same water. And there's better ways to do it that don't, especially here in Colorado. I mean, we just had a fire in Thornton in February, and our entire water supply is in question right now.
Wow.
So it's not looking good for the Western United States and AI data centers.
There's no snow on the mountains west of here. It's crazy.
Yeah.
But another question I didn't address when it comes to AI is the electric bills. We need to put consumer protections in place so that when Palantir puts a giant data processing center up in your neck of the woods on your electrical system, they need to pay their own damn electric bill. Our electric bills shouldn't go up to astronomical heights so that a billionaire can make more billions. We have the ability to protect consumers from that, and we need to.
And that's my question is how does this all affect us? Because it's not just the water and it's not just the energy, it's the pollution, there's so many aspects of this. Not to mention it takes about 5 people to run a data center after construction. So you're not creating jobs for the community.
No.
So honestly, what value are you bringing to the table? It seems like you're really only bringing negative impacts to any community you bring this to.
Especially if we're using that data center to process flock cameras.
Yeah.
Bringing up the question of regulation of AI. Right now, the feds want to keep the states from regulating AI. There's nothing maybe the Commerce Clause of the Constitution gives them a little bit of leeway there, but we need to push for our own regulations anyway, and then dare them to beat us in court over it. I don't think we need to just cede the issue to them. We need to put in the regulations that we need to put in to protect Colorado citizens.
Right. Let's see. Microbrews rule says, how about Kansas invalidating trans persons' driver's licenses?
Where's that at?
In the comments, a little bit
further. Is it down
up.
Near the bottom?
No, it's a little bit further up, but it was your thoughts on Kansas invalidating trans persons' driver's licenses.
Oh, okay. I misheard what you were saying. You know what? When I served in the military, when my dad served, when my grandparents served, going all the way back to the Revolutionary War, men in my family have served in the military. And we served for all Americans. We didn't serve for just white men. We didn't serve for white straight men. We didn't serve for white Christian men. We served for all men and women in America. We served the Constitution. And the whole, Kansas taking trans driver's license away and other movements across the country, it's wrong. We need to fight it. And we need to recognize that the reason they're doing this is to give their core base voters something to latch onto. Because if they're not latching onto that kind of thing, then they're latching on to the fact that, oh crap, I can't afford groceries. So it's a distraction technique among the far right to keep people focused on anything except the kitchen table issues. And the way we defeat that is by staying determined and getting rid of all of these MAGA right wing, fascist loving Republicans that are in office. And I want to say, because I'm in a very Republican district, I say that knowing that this is a Republican district, but also believing that most of the Republicans in my district are not MAGA Republicans. They're more traditional conservative, uh, George Bush, Ronald Reagan type Republicans that I don't believe buy into this right wing stuff.
And we've seen some Democrats, particularly, our favorite person, Gavin Newsom.
Yeah.
Sarcasm, of course, to the audience. On our previous podcast, we discussed our disdain for the man. But we've seen some Democrats try to start backing off of support for the trans and the LGBTQ. What are your thoughts on the Democrats trying to distance themselves from that? And how do
I
we?
think it's just a continuation of the Washington, D.C. Democrats listening to consultants instead of getting out and talking to people on Main Street America. It's another example of the Republicans being willing to fight for something and beat the Democrats into submission rather than the Democrats sticking together and fighting for what's right. And it's all because they're listening to consultants who are telling them, well, this is what our polls say. And, they really beat us up in the last election over that. You know what? If the Republicans want to keep pushing these fringe social issues, I know if you're a trans person, that's not a fringe issue to you. I didn't mean it like that. But if they want to keep pushing these social issues to divide people, then the Democrats need to double down on things like affordable housing, a living wage, labor support, all the things that we had in the 50s that made America, built the middle class, the things that will raise people up so that they have time to spend with their families again, so that we have reduced crime. Democrats should be fighting tooth and nail for that kind of thing. If they would, then the Republicans would largely be ignored on all their social issue stuff. And if they're being ignored on them, they're not going to fight for them because it's not working.
Yeah, the failure of the Democrats over the past 40 years to coalesce against this, right-wing economic plan is what I think landed us here.
Absolutely. It's why rural America doesn't go along with the Democrats anymore, because the Democrats have become Wall Street.
And it allows the Republicans to scapegoat minorities, LGBTQ, anyone, socialists, communists, the liberal media, literally everyone but themselves, scapegoat anything else. But it's frankly a right-wing economic plan that we've been living under for 40 years.
Yeah. And if we would get a real leader in the Democratic Party, I don't think we know who our next presidential candidate is yet. I don't think it's going to be Gavin Newsom. It's not going to be Pritzker. It's not going to be Shapiro. These are the names that we're hearing right now, but the real leader hasn't stepped up yet. And I think the real leader will step up when grassroots Democrats show that we are ready for a real leader. And we can show that in part by getting involved in the primaries and making sure that people like Jurassic John Hickenlooper doesn't make it through the primaries. And Michael Bennett, I got a text from him just before we started. I'm running. It's like, no shit. We all know that you're running for governor, but you shouldn't be, because you're a lousy senator. And the sooner the electorate at large fights back in the primaries by tossing out every incumbent they can, that's when the Democratic Party will say, uh-oh, we've got to change our plan. And that's when we will see a real leader emerge in the Democratic Party.
Have you followed Plattner up in Maine at all?
Yes,
Did you see the numbers that came out this week?
I did not.
He's up like 40 points on, is it Mills he's running against in the
Janet Mills, yeah.
yeah, it was like 62 to like 24 or something. It was crazy.
Yeah, what's crazy is she would be 78 years old if she went on to be the nominee and won. Why on earth would you elect a 78-year-old senator for the first time?
And I think that would be the record, right? She would be the oldest
Oldest elected?
elected senator.
I can't swear to it, but I think so.
All right. A Vice with Virtue wants to know what your thoughts on abortion are.
One of the videos that kicked off my social media, for lack of a better word, success, I went out and told people how I felt about the day that my wife miscarried. And, you know, when she became pregnant, we were not planning on having any more kids. As a matter of fact, I already had my appointment set up to go to the vet. And she called me up from work, excuse me, and said, "Hey, I'm pregnant again." It's like, "Oh, okay." And we were a little taken aback because we weren't in a financial position to have more kids. But neither one of us wanted to have an abortion. But I distinctly remember thinking about how glad I was that there was nobody from the government telling us what we had to do. This was more her decision, but it was our decision. And then she had a miscarriage. And it was one of those things where she had to go to the doctor right now and get care right now, or she could die. And as I'm sitting there in the waiting room, I remember thinking about how glad I was that there was nobody from the government telling us that she couldn't get that care she needed. And Carmen Brewster, who's trying to write in our petition onto the primary ballot for governor, if you haven't followed Carmen B. Not in Idaho, she went through that in Idaho where they were denying her the care and she almost died. And so many women around this country have died because their healthcare decision has been put in the hand of religious zealots. And I don't even think the people behind it care because they're rich people who can take their wife or their mistress wherever they want to get their abortions. It's all a control factor. In my mind is the government, the federal government, the state government, the local government, they have no business whatsoever injecting themselves into the healthcare decisions of anybody, man, woman, child, whatever. It's none of their damn business. And we need to do everything that we can in Colorado to protect the rights of women to have their privacy and make their own healthcare decisions with their doctors, because that's something that's coming down the road. The Trump administration is going to do everything they can to take away the rights of women across America to their healthcare choices. And that's one of the things I'm talking about when I talk about making Colorado strong enough to withstand that, to withstand a tyrannical federal government. Did I lose you?
No, sorry, I was looking for a comment that somebody left.
Oh,
nope, not that one. There we go. So aside from some a little bit of criticism here, Lauren T. 3091 thinks that we need more parties in America. So, what are your thoughts on third parties? Do we have to change the system for that to work, or is it just a matter of breaking up the two parties?
There's two things about that. First, the Libertarian Party. Everybody knows who the Libertarian Party is, right?
Yeah.
You know, they've managed to get, I think, 2 senators that I'm aware of in 50 some years. The Libertarian Party started as a third party in Colorado Springs, Colorado. And all these years later, they've never managed to field a presidential contender. They've only elected a handful of people to elected office. That's after 50 years. And that's thing one. The other thing is, we talked about this when I was in college. I took a couple of political science classes. My professor was a guy named Robert Wright, who worked in the first Bush administration. And we talked about third parties. And he says, this is the way it works in America. You have the Democrats and the Republicans, and eventually both parties get isolated and out of touch with regular people. And somebody comes along to form a third party, and they start gaining traction. And when that happens, the Republicans and the Democrats will co opt the issues that allowed that third party to gain traction. That's why the Libertarians are so closely associated with the Republican Party now. So it's not that I'm against a third party. It's that I don't see how a third party is ever going to take off in America, simply because as soon as they start getting strong, I mean, look at, for those of you who are old enough to remember Ross Perot in 1992. This guy was a billionaire, and he managed to get, what, 7% of the national vote, just enough to swing the election towards Clinton. So, you know, if somebody could come up with a plan to build a third party, I'm fine with it. I'm not against third parties. I just, until there is a viable one to consider choosing, I think our best option, especially in 2026, is to focus on making the Democratic Party what it used to be, return it back to being an FDR style Democratic Party that fights for working class people again. We do that, and you know, the infrastructure is there, the communication structure is there, that everything is there. The problem is who's running it. And we, you know, the caucuses in Colorado are, what's today, the 26th? They're
Yeah.
about 9 days away. The caucuses in Colorado. You don't have to be a dedicated member of the party. You just have to be a registered Democrat to go to the caucuses. And that's where you can make a difference. And we have 9 counties in House District 47, and 2 of them don't have parties. There is no Democratic Party because people just don't. You know, go to your local Democratic Party and take it over.
No, I saw someone, I think it was South Carolina, was running as a progressive, as a Republican, which used to exist in this country a long time ago. The progressive Republicans are the ones who got rid of slavery.
Right.
So I think that's an interesting tactic. I think the way our first past the post system is set up, it almost it's automatically going to divide into a two-party system. To have a third, fourth, fifth party, you really have to have a representational system where you vote for your party, and then the party sends electeds up,
right.
Like a parliamentary system, like we see in the UK or the other European countries, which would require a huge constitutional change in almost every state. So I don't see that happening anytime soon.
No.
I'd love to see that happen, but I don't
we,
see it.
We can't wait for something that like that to happen. Frankly, we don't. It's too urgent that we do something now to get government to focus back on Main Street. And when I say Main Street, I'm talking about the bread and butter issues, not the social divisive issues. We need to rebuild our neighborhoods, our community again. And we can't do that if we're focused on trying to form third parties.
And we're seeing some news about billionaire tax being proposed in some states. I know California, we have Gavin Newsom against it.
Of course,
What are your thoughts on taxing billionaires?
absolutely. You know, you're aware here in Colorado, for those who aren't in Colorado, we have this thing called TABOR, the Taxpayer Bill of Rights. And it says that we can't raise taxes without a vote, whether it's at the municipal level or the state level. You can't raise taxes without the people who are going to be taxed raising or voting in favor of it, unless your municipal area has um, voted to end Tabor for that municipality. But it also says that the state budget cannot increase over what it was the year before plus an inflation number calculated some way. Naturally, it doesn't calculate it like you and I feel it. It calculates it to the same formula that they use to keep from increasing benefits as much as possible. So, what's happened over the years is expenses, the cost of highways, the cost of employees for the state government, the cost of everything that the state has to pay for has gone up a lot more than inflation, the way they calculate it. So they're supposed to refund excess revenues back to the people. And this was an issue I actually, the first time I ran for the House 30 years ago, was an issue that I took up against my opponent then, Lola Spradley, who went on to be the first female Speaker of the House for the Republicans. She had all these personal property business tax breaks, and they pay for these tax breaks for businesses by taking the Tabor refunds. So we all voted for this thinking that we would get excess revenues given back to we, the people. But what they've done to keep the excess revenues from happening is give tax breaks to the wealthy. They've been doing it for 30 years, and it's time that we claw that back. And we can do it in part by taxing billionaires, especially billionaires, but also the 100 millionaires.
So theory and thumbsticks seems to be a critic of yours. He says would rather tax Americans than tariff our nation's competitors. So I'll throw that to you. Why don't you let theory and thumbsticks know why you?
Yeah, I saw somebody else in the comments say, "Don't worry about her; she's a troll." But I'll answer the question anyway. If you think that these tariffs are actually doing anything for the working class, they're not creating jobs. There's no new production factories opening up because of these tariffs. All they're doing is increasing the prices on you and I. It's a tax on you and I. We are paying the tariff. I would much rather the billionaire who is running the big company who can withstand the tariffs and running the small business out of business. I would rather they pay the tariffs than we, but they're not because they pass the cost on to us. All the tariffs are doing is creating a windfall for the rich. So, there you have it. Yes, I would rather tax an American billionaire than tax Main Street Americans any day of the week.
Amen to that, brother. Yes. All right. So we're coming up. We're almost to 50 minutes here. So tell me, I don't know how long your podcast usually goes for.
It goes for as long as we want it to go for, as long as the conversation's good. But I know you worked a long day and you don't want to be doing this all night. So I respect that. We don't have to keep going.
Yes, I also have to get dinner ready for the wife when she gets home. So
yeah. Happy wife, happy life.
That's right. That's right.
I say as my wife was very much against me running. But she's coming around.
A man's got to do what a man's got to do,
That's exactly why I'm running. I couldn't not run, not when I've got a state representative who is a bona fide proud boy, somebody who literally led the Republicans in the Colorado House to turn their backs on veterans who were talking to the state legislature about January 6 pardons. How could I let this guy run unopposed? I mean, I wanted to run against him 4 years ago when he first ran, but I knew my wife didn't want me running for office again. And I wanted to run against him 2 years ago. But again, my wife was like, no, we're done with campaigns. But this time, when I couldn't find somebody else to run, I was like, I'm sorry, my love, but I have to. If I don't, I will regret it the rest of my life.
Well, I think now's the time. I think now's a better chance than ever for Democrats. I mean, it's looking super good in Texas. I know we've been saying it for 25 years now. Good chance.
We have. This is the year. This is the year.
This is the one.
Yeah.
But no, Vic, it's been great catching up. Again, for those who are just joining us, I'm Big Mike. I will be guest hosting for Resistor Vic while he is on the campaign trail, so he can, focus his sights on that for the time being. You can find my channel. I'm Big Mike on TikTok and at Big Friggin' Mike on YouTube. That's friggin' with 2 G's and 2 I's. So find me there, and you can support my channels on Patreon. And I'll throw it over to Vic for the closing words.
All right, folks. If you want to help me defeat a Proud Boy, veteran-hating scumbag, I know in this day and age, you're not supposed to talk about your opponents like that. If you want to help me bring protections to Colorado to fight back against a tyrannical federal government, if you want to help me protect and build up the rural schools in southeastern Colorado and protect our rural hospitals, which are under great threat because of Medicaid cuts. If you want to help me do those things, this is my website. It's scrolling across the bottom, vicforhd47.com, vicforcolorado.com, vicmyersfordemocracy.com will all get you to this site, and you can donate from that site. You can sign up to volunteer, although we're still getting up that part set up. But you can go to my website, support me. You can learn a lot more about me. I've got 2 years of videos on TikTok and YouTube telling people exactly what I think about political issues. And I would very much appreciate your support. If you are in House District 47, let me say to you, I would appreciate your vote in November.
Sounds good. All right. Vic, if you want to stick around, and we'll go ahead and end the stream.
All right. Thanks for everybody who tuned in.
Thanks, everybody. Have a good night.
Well, folks, looks like we're back at the barn and it's time to call it a day. I sure do appreciate you spending your time with me. If you want to help keep this podcast going by supporting me, you can get a paid subscription on Substack, where I'm Resistor Vic. Or if you're the type that'd rather go to PayPal, I'm also resistorvic@gmail.com. Thanks again. All right. Is that